Today, we're looking at one of the most debated.
Why bro trying to make Super Saiyan God look cold? Super Saiyan God has never been tough. It will never be tough, bro. Like, sure, it's like red aesthetics. Like, bro, that's cool and all, but that's only like 15 minutes of fame head-ass aesthetics, bro. Super Saiyan God throughout the entirety of the Dragon Ball franchise has received basically 0 wins and gets completely slapped by every single character it's been used against. The only reason this form gets so much glaze is because it's called God, and if it wasn't, this form would not have any of the glaze that it's given out to be.
The base form during GT is already beyond any version of Majin Buu. This is based on his encounter with General Rodo, a character whom Goku outright states surpasses Buu in strength.
I hope it's not just me that's noticing, but are you guys noticing GT down players using the same copy and paste script of claiming to be generous to GT? Or how these GT down players only use copy and paste arguments from Google and only grant that base GT Goku is above Buuhan and Kid Buu and nothing more? Let me just easily debunk this absolute garbage real quick. So Kid Buu is stated to be the strongest Buu. I already made a video about Kid Buu versus Buuhan. Do not make dumbass arguments in my comments, just go to that video. Buuhan is equal to base Vegito in power. This is stated multiple times in the anime and the Daizenshuu. Since Kid Buu is stronger than Buuhan, that would mean that Kid Buu is stronger than base Vegito. Kid Buu is reincarnated into Oob, which Goku states multiple times is just as strong as he expected when Oob gets angry. And there are many more statements from the anime and the manga that are basically implicative that Oob is at least the same power level as Kid Buu. Base End of Z Goku manages to contend with Kid Buu at least equally, if not stronger than Oob. Given all of this data, this would mean that base End of Z Goku is stronger than base Vegito, which would make Super Saiyan 3 End of Z Goku stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Vegito. In the first episode of GT, Goku confirms that he did in fact have an all-out battle with Oob. Full power also does account for transformations, by the way. I don't know why people would not believe that, since we have very obvious examples such as Frieza, Goku with Super Saiyan 2 versus Majin Vegeta. I can go on. Later on in GT, Goku completely obliterates the Sigma Force in his base form. This same Sigma Force is implied by Goku in GT to be stronger than even Oob. Given all of this data, this would have to mean that base GT Goku would completely make Super Saiyan 3 Vegito his bitch. And for those people who are still coping in the back, Rildo is not the first villain that is stronger than Kid Buu. It's confirmed by the GT writers for the Black Star Dragon Ball arc that the reason they sent Goku into space is because he was getting too strong to fight enemies on Earth. Characters who had been on Earth prior to the Black Star Dragon Ball arc are people like Kid Buu and Buuhan. Given all this data, that would have to mean that even characters like Legic would completely destroy Buuhan and Kid Buu.
Whether that comparison is meant for Kid Buu or even someone like Buuhan is mostly irrelevant. The point is, Goku has already eclipsed the entire Buu tier early on. Unfortunately, after this milestone, Goku's progression in GT becomes harder to measure. He doesn't gain power through rigorous training or natural progression like in Z. Instead, any noticeable increases come from the transformations or brief power-ups granted by others.
Not only is this claim extremely terrible because the Sigma Force example I provided earlier just completely destroys this claim, but there are plenty of other examples of natural progression of Goku's power throughout GT. Goku in Super Saiyan 2 was fighting General Rildo, who was currently being controlled by Baby at the time. Later on, throughout the Baby saga, Baby manages to control Goten's body, to which Baby makes the claim that the only way he can surpass Trunks and Goku is by taking over Vegeta's body. Baby Goten and Baby Gohan manage to overwhelm Vegeta, so now Baby can take control of Vegeta's body. Goku then returns to Earth and completely bitches both Gohan and Goten. All of this information provided gives us the inference that Goku went from weaker to Vegeta to completely surpassing Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta in his base form.
For example, some fans argue that Goku gets significantly stronger during the Super 17 arc, estimating up to an 8 times power jump. This theory stems from Super 17 overpowering Oob, who by then has surpassed the level of Super Saiyan 3 Goku from the Baby arc. But this idea quickly falls apart when you realize Super 17 was deliberately restraining himself during the fight to analyze Goku's techniques. Because of that, we can't confidently claim Goku experienced any substantial growth in power from this. Even
GT down players only cherry pick and debunk arguments that nobody with 2 brain cells actually uses. Here's some actual good evidence of a substantial power growth. Goku in his Super Saiyan form finds it absolutely insane for Super 17 to tank his Kamehameha and is completely surprised by this. This evidence is relevant for a substantial growth because in the Baby arc, this has already happened before. Super Saiyan 4 uses a full-on times 10 Kamehameha and Golden Grade 8 Baby completely tanks this. The most reasonable interpretation to explain why Goku is so shocked at a person being able to tank his Kamehameha in Super Saiyan is because he got stronger and his Super Saiyan is now stronger than Goku's Super Saiyan 4 from the Baby arc. In other words, Goku finds it surprising for someone to completely tank his Kamehameha as a Super Saiyan, which wouldn't make any sense if he didn't get stronger because it already happened in the Baby arc. Even the argument used for this video is completely bullshit because base Gohan is confirmed multiple times to be stronger than Oob, as people thought that his Kamehameha actually killed Super 17, which prior Oob did literally no damage, so according to the Z Fighters, base Gohan is stronger than Oob. Then we have Vegeta over here claiming he's stronger than Gohan by claiming that he's number 1, and then we have Goku, who is obviously stronger than Vegeta at this point in the story. Given all of this information, that would actually mean that base Goku is stronger than Oob.
Goku first clashes with Baby Vegeta before he transforms, they're relatively even. He then shifts into what's known as Super Baby 1, where he boasts of finally unlocking the pinnacle of Saiyan strength. Goku in return remarked that he's never sent such intense ki before. It's implied that this form may tap into knowledge or power reminiscent of Super Vegeta.
It's crazy how my debunk to this video already gives information that even low tier characters like the Sigma Force would completely destroy Super Saiyan 3 Vegito, but the fact that you decided to make it only Super Vegito makes absolutely no sense. Why would we only limit this to Super Vegito? There's like no priors to suggest why it would only be limited to Super Vegito. What we need to understand about Super Saiyans 2 and 3 is that it's confirmed by Toriyama that Super Saiyans 2 and 3 are just powered up versions of Super Saiyan. And if you know how powering up works in Dragon Ball, it's essentially just outputting more ki. Given all of this, there's no reason that Baby didn't account for a hypothetical Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta when he made this statement. There's just absolutely nothing to suggest this. He should definitely have knowledge of Super Saiyan 3 Vegito, considering that Vegito is of Goku and Vegeta, and he should have Vegeta's memories since it's confirmed that he has the memories of everyone he absorbs. And for any of those weirdos who are still like, oh, Goku and Vegeta can't sense the hidden ki of Vegito, yes they can. Goku has been shown to sense hidden ki multiple times. There shouldn't be any reason to suggest that Goku didn't sense the hidden ki that was inclusive of both Super Saiyan 2 and Super Saiyan 3 Vegito.
To play Super Saiyan 4's multiplier roughly at 30,000 to 40,000 times base Goku.
Why is this just so objectively false? Let me just start off with my first debunk, and then I'll get to my second debunk, which will be more interesting. It's confirmed by the GT staff while making Super Saiyan 4 that they felt that they had already gone as far as using the Potara earrings in the story, and thought it was insane to continue even further in reference to Super Saiyan 4. And if you know what continue even further means, that's pretty much implicative that Super Saiyan 4 is stronger than Fusion. Even more further evidence to back up that Super Saiyan 4 has a much stronger multiplier than the Potaras is when Elder Kai confirms that the only way to beat Baby is to unlock Goku's potential. And just for further clarification, Elder Kai is a character that has recommended the Potara earrings to be used to fight against other villains in the series. Instead of offering the Potara earrings to Goku for him to, let's say, fuse with Oob, instead he tries to unlock Goku's potential by pulling out his tail. And before some knowledge claim guy tries to say that Elder Kai doesn't know the hidden potential of Goku, yes he does, because he knows Gohan's potential in the Buu Saga. Elder Kai has been able to read and analyze hidden potentials before they're even released. It's also consistent in the series for characters who have the ability to unlock hidden potential to be able to feel hidden potential as well. And before any GT down player tries to double down even further and say that Elder Kai wouldn't know how strong a Goku and Oob fusion would be, he definitely would, because before Goku and Gohan even got to fuse, he was outright making statements that they wouldn't even need to go Super Saiyan to kill Buu tanks. This statement is consistent with the power scaling because base Vegito rivals Buhan's power, who is stronger than Buu tanks, proving Elder Kai's reliability on fusion. Oh, and if someone wants to triple down, bro, don't say that he has no idea how strong Goku and Oob are. He was watching both of them fight. Calm down.
Super Saiyan 4 Goku surpasses space and time due to a line in the Chosentu referencing the Sugoroku space, which lacks spatial and temporal dimensions. However, that interpretation doesn't hold up. The room of spirit and time, the hyperbolic time chamber, is another example of a subspace, and it's one that explicitly holds a measurable time flow and a finite interior.
For all of the goofy goobers that don't understand why this argument is absolutely trash, this is what a fallacy of contextimony looks like. These Dragon Ball down players will immediately try to take a statement and then use it out of context and try to fill up their own context that isn't supported by anything. Let's actually look into what the statement says. The statement says that there exists a subspace that is not within any of the worlds shown in Figure 1, aka the macrocosm, and that it has no concept of space or time. The reason why this interpretation is extremely shit is because the definition of a concept is an idea or a general notion. On top of that, it's stated to have no concept of space or time. This is what is known as a universal negation within logic, meaning that there are no exceptions, because then that would contradict the statement that there is no concept of time or space. But Zeta, what about the hyperbolic time chamber argument he provided? Doesn't that contradict what is said? No, because that still misrepresents and assumes the semantics of the statement, which is not proven. The text says that the hyperbolic time chamber and the Sugoroku space are examples of the subspace. But wait, the time chamber has time and the subspace has no time or space, so what's going on here? Because a straightforward example would result in a logical contradiction, it would just mean that the phrase example is indexed to a similar example or a more broad example, rather than the text talking about an actual straightforward strict example. With all of those terrible interpretations out of the way, how do we link the subspace to the Sugoroku space scaling in question? Because being an example of the subspace doesn't necessarily affirm that it's a spatial atemporal such as the hyperbolic time chamber, as it's not a spatial atemporal. Well, luckily for us, this is actually extremely easy. In Dragon Ball GT, it stated that the Sugoroku space is not subject to time or space. This statement within GT is further backed up as it's repeated multiple times that the Sugoroku space is between dimensions, which is expected for something to not be subject to space or time. And don't be a goofy goober and take what I'm saying out of context. I'm not talking about physically in between, but rather conceptually separated or just like not subject to something. Like how a transcendental being is between life and death, despite the fact that life and death are not physical attributes. The Sugoroku space is stated to be similar to the subspace, which also has similar statements of lacking the concepts of space and time. Therefore, the most parsimonious inference is that the Sugoroku space also has the qualities of lacking the concepts of time and space. Also, it's funny how this video admits that the phrase subspace is a category-based term and not another dimension within the macrocosm, which actually concedes to the Sugoroku space argument being true even further. This is because if the Sugoroku space is stated to be similar to the subspace, and yet one of the subspace's features is lacking the concepts of space and time, and we know that's not indexed to the hyperbolic time chamber, then it would have to be the Sugoroku space, because adding that trait or feature would be completely arbitrary.
It doesn't reach the top of the GT power pyramid, however, as Omega Shenron clearly outscales him, and Goku is forced into increasingly desperate situations.
This nigga is trash.
I swear, people think they know Dragon Ball power scaling yet don't actually do their research. GT Goku scales to Omega Shenron. This is because the Dragon Fist actually managed to completely damage Omega, and on top of that, we got a Kamehameha, so both of these attacks contributed to completely destroying Omega Shenron's body, meaning that Super Saiyan 4 Goku does actually scale to Omega. Also, Goku just casually tanks Omega Shenron's Ki Blasts in base after he becomes a god, and in the 100-year time skip special, which takes place after all of the events of GT, Pan confirms multiple times and deadass starts glazing Goku, saying that no one can beat Goku, which includes Omega.
The GT Perfect Files, he described outright as the most powerful character in existence at the time. This positions him above not only Omega Shenron, but also Black Smoke Shenron, both of whom have been credited with enough destructive potential to wipe out the entire universe via their use of negative energy. At first glance, this would seem to imply that Gogeta operates comfortably at a universal level, especially since Omega Shenron can weaponize his negative energy into offensive attacks, and Gogeta effortlessly neutralizes those without breaking a sweat. However, there is a nuance here that's overlooked. Unlike conventional ki-based assaults that can obliterate space in an instant, the destruction caused by negative energy unfolds gradually, beginning with Earth, expanding to the surrounding systems, and eventually reaching cosmic realms like the Kaioshin dimension. In essence, the universe isn't under immediate threat in a traditional combat sense, but is instead being consumed by a corruptive force that spreads over time.
That isn't really problematic when you consider that this corruptive force that the negative energy produces destroys anything that it fully engulfs, so it's not really problematic at all. Earlier in this video, you admitted two things. One, that Ki Blasts emit like immediate destructive force, and secondly, that Omega Shenron has the ability to condense all of this negative energy into a single Ki Blast. If Omega Shenron has the ability to condense negative over time decaying energy that spreads across the entire macrocosm into a singular destructive ability, then it should be able to destroy the entire macrocosm.
This difference in temporal impact matters. We see it reflected in Kibito Kai's reactions across different series. During GT, Kibito remains hopeful that escape is possible, even amid universe threatening events. In contrast, during Super, when the universe faces imminent annihilation, there's no discussion of escape. Survival is off the table.
This is not logically coherent at all, and it's just an argument from silence fallacy. Just because it's never stated that there's any methodology of escaping Goku and Beerus doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't exist. In Dragon Ball Super, there are plenty of other universes that exist that the Supreme Kais could easily just teleport to. Even Supreme Kai teleports to Zeno's palace, which is completely outside the entire macrocosm. Also, I know what you're trying to do, and it's not very smart. Just because Kibito Kai suggests the idea of escaping doesn't necessarily mean escaping is possible. I'll provide an analogy to completely destroy this argument extremely easily. Suppose it's 11 p.m. and I'm at my house and I'm 13,000 miles away from the airport, and I say that at 12 o'clock we can drive to the airport and make it to the airplane on time. This is completely impossible because there is no car in the history of technology that can travel to 13,000 miles in a singular hour. Again, just because Kibito Kai suggests the idea or the attempt to escape does not necessarily mean that escape is possible. Also, it's funny how Detbird likes to mention the macrocosm a lot, despite the fact that the Kais are stated multiple times to have full control, jurisdiction, you know what, over the macrocosm, except for the Sugoroku space, which completely transcends their power and authority. Since the Sugoroku space completely transcends the powers of the Supreme Kais, which encompasses the macrocosm, then destroying the Sugoroku space would actually scale above the macrocosm, meaning base GT Kid Goku has better feats than Super Saiyan God Goku, the very character you're attempting to scale above Gogeta.
In his clash with Beerus, their blows created shockwaves powerful enough to ripple across the entire macrocosm of the Dragon Ball universe. These shockwaves weren't limited to just one realm. They extended to the Kaioshin realm, a place traditionally treated as distinct from the physical universe itself. Even that places Goku's power output at the level required to erase the totality of the Dragon Ball macrocosm with only a few strokes. When we take these feats at face value, Goku edges out Gogeta.
Wait. So let me get this straight, right? So you're meaning to tell me that Omega Shenron's negative energy that was eventually going to destroy the macrocosm via spreading, then gets condensed into a singular Ki Blast that's going to blow up the entire macrocosm, is somehow weaker than the same feat needing to be completed via multiple punches. Detbird, I'm sorry to tell you this, but one singular Ki Blast is more powerful than 3 hits that Goku can't even control himself. And just for further clarification, I'm taking both feats at face value. One singular Ki Blast is going to be more powerful than necessarily requiring multiple punches to destroy the exact same thing. And just to be clear, again, I'm only taking both feats at face value. Obviously, I'm aware that characters have been able to destroy the macrocosm since the very Buu saga, but again, I'm taking both of these things at face value, yet somehow Detbird believes this is superior. I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me. In fact, I think Super Saiyan God Goku is much more comparable to a character like Super 17, who was so powerful that he managed to fuse the afterlife with the living world, which by definition is a macrocosm level feat. This would have to be a macrocosm level feat because Super 17 is affecting the two very frameworks that define what the macrocosm is and then fusing them into a singular unified framework, which would make this a macrocosm level feat. And trust me, for the Super Saiyan God people, this is really bad for you because base Goku in the Shadow Dragons arc one-shot Super 17. This is because he fights Rage Shenron, who completely deflects Super Saiyan 4's full power 10 times Kamehameha and completely beats him so badly he brings Goku back to base. Then he fights Oceanus Shenron, who's implied in in the episode previews to be stronger than Raid Shenron and contends with Oceanus in base. And by the way, Super 17, before the Shadow Dragon showed up, is a Super Saiyan 4 level fighter, so Goku's base form would scale above Super 17.
Even if he and Vegeta fused into a Super Saiyan 3, Vegeta, the hypothetical result would still be effortlessly defeated by Beerus. By that point, Vegeta was still the most powerful fusion Goku has mentally countered. Yet, after obtaining God Ki, Goku not only surpasses that magic fusion, but climbs well beyond it as the battle progresses, potentially increasing his power dozens of times throughout the fight. And when the God energy later becomes integrated into his base form,
This is just not true, and it's just a perfect example of people fabricating the truth of Dragon Ball superpower scaling for their own purposes. When it says that the Super Saiyan God's power became fully merged and became a part of Goku, it just means that Goku can tap into the power of Super Saiyan God without necessarily turning into Super Saiyan God. This is supported because it's stated multiple times that Goku's Super Saiyan God is the power of a god on multiple occasions. This analytically deduces that the Super Saiyan God's power is in fact God power or God Ki. These exact same statements are being used for Super Saiyan Goku, meaning that he is using God power or God Ki while he's in Super Saiyan. Even after the Battle of Gods fight, Goku questions if he should showcase or show off his God powers, which are distinct from mortal powers, so it would make no sense if God powers became the mortal powers. People really seem to ignore the fact that Saiyan Beyond God is a thing, which is accessing the power of Super Saiyan God without necessarily changing into Super Saiyan God, which is what Goku did at the end of the Battle of Gods arc when he punched Beerus' energy ball. And for those people who are saying that, oh, Goku can still be sensed by his friends, so he's not using God Ki, this argument actually just supports my argument even more, because if Beerus is sensing Goku's God Ki via making the statement, and then everyone else is sensing his mortal ki, then that would just mean that Goku isn't fully tapped into his God Ki, which would actually, justify why his Super Saiyan is equal to Super Saiyan God. Also, in that exact same fight, it's implied that Goku gets his God powers quote-unquote back after Beerus starts dodging him again on multiple occasions, and then Goku manages to clock hits back at his face over and over again, implying that his God powers were lost, and then he regains it. Oh, and for those people who are like, oh, well, Beerus could have just been underestimating Goku because he was back in Super Saiyan. If that were actually true, then Beerus would have immediately noticed that Goku's energy didn't change at all, which just wasn't the case. He was constantly talking about how Goku's God powers were fading away and was casually dodging him. So he was clearly noticing a change in power. But then he notices this later on, which would just make no sense narratively if he was always at that power.
stronger than Goku and Vegeta individually in a Super Saiyan 4 state.
Just because something is possible doesn't mean it's true. Also, just because there is an uncertainty in comparison or even a comparison of two entities doesn't necessarily mean that comparison is valid or there is an equivalence within that comparison, as that would result in a logical non sequitur. So don't ever try to say that Vegeta is relative to Super Saiyan 4 Goku. That's just never been the case at all. I already presented severe contradictions within the source material that just completely prevent this from being the case, so yeah, moving on.
For Vegeta, only a few dozen times more powerful than Z-era Vegeta. Lastly, it's worth noting that internally, the creative goal for Super Saiyan God was to depict a warrior who transcends all the past iterations of Goku.